This past May, a young boy in the second grade received First Holy Communion at a parish not far from here. He was just so filled with gratitude to God and to his pastor that after the Mass, he went up to his pastor to thank him for giving him the treasure that is Jesus. Then he added something pretty remarkable. He said, "Father, when I grow up, I'm going to play the lottery. I'm going to win the lottery and give you $1 million. Well, the priest kind of perked up. He said, "What a generous thought, but why me? There's so many needy people in the world." The boy said, No, Father. All the time, my mother, my father, and their friends, they're always talking about you. And they say, you are a very poor preacher. I want to make you a rich preacher. Every year, each parish in our diocese receives a visiting preacher, often speaks on global solidarity, how in God's family, we're one. There's no such thing as other people's children. They're the children of humanity. They're God's children and our children. Often the missionary journeys from a faraway place, looks different from us. His voice sounds strange to us. I know I don't look different from you. I'm one of you. I don't sound strange, I hope. I was born in Fairview Park, but I'm your missionary this year, and I can tell you why. It's 2001, and I'm teaching moral theology at St. Mary's Seminary, and my boss, Father Tom Tift, approaches me and says, "Donald, you deserve a sabbatical. I'm going to give you 6 months to go anywhere in the world and study any topic you want." When he said those things to me, shivers went up and down my spine. Within 60 seconds, I said, I'll be packing to leave for East Africa, and I will study the plight of extremely vulnerable children, kids growing up in slums who sleep in the streets, young children confined to refugee camps, children who've been kidnapped from the families that love them, abducted and thrown into hell, into the hell that is guerrilla warfare. They're told that their gun is now their mother, their best friend, their everything. I have been back to Africa every year since. I'm irresistibly drawn there. After all, Africa is our birthplace. 80,000 years ago, all humanity lived on a single continent. Africa, our birthplace. Come with me now to Africa. Come in your heart and in your imagination. We'll journey 8,000 miles to a village near the equator in Uganda. Its name, Namugongo. There, outside Uganda's sprawling capital city, Kampala, in 1886, 21 young people who share our faith in Jesus Christ, who share our hopes in humanity, all rooted in the Redeemer, were martyred for their loyalty to Jesus. One of them, Kizito, was barely 13 years old when he surrendered his life. Others bear such names as Charles Lwanga, Joseph Balagadembe, Matthias Murimbe. Today, at an orphanage at that very spot where they were martyred, called the Children and Life Mission, 120 boys aged 6 to 16 live together. Each has suffered the devastating loss of both mother and father. That's the bond that unites them. None of them know anymore the tenderness, the touch of parental love. I was working there in the year 2001, and one particular day, a very busy day for me, I skipped breakfast. I was traveling during lunchtime, and dinner was being served very, very late. I hadn't eaten since sometime the day before, and I was very hungry and had no access to food, a predicament that's extraordinary in my life. And I'm in this long line to get food, and I am irritable from hunger. And when you're irritable, you can say stupid things. I just blurted out what I was thinking. I said, "I'm starving here." And a young 10-year-old boy, rail thin, came running over to comfort me. I could see worry in his eyes, and he started rubbing my stomach. He said, no, look here. You have reserves. You have reserves." These children can humble you quickly. Their favorite time of the day is story hour, just before bedtime. And their number one topic, they always beg me, "Father, tell us stories about American kids." They are exceedingly inquisitive about your life. Another story that they always beg me for is the onion story, they call it. I first encountered this story on a study tour of Russia. Our Russian brothers and sisters tell this story to their children and their grandchildren about the ties that bind. Once upon a time, there was a peasant woman, and a very wicked woman she was. When she died, she did not leave behind a single good deed. So the devil caught her and plunged her into the lake of fire. But her guardian angel boldly stood up on her behalf, standing before the throne of God, trying to remember some small kindness she might have done long ago that's now forgotten. She once pulled up an onion from her garden and gave it away to a starving person. God answered, "Then take that onion out to her in the lake. Let her grab hold and pull her out. But if the onion breaks, the woman must remain where she is." Her guardian angel dashed to her, extending the onion, shouted, "Grab hold, and I will pull you out." And he was successfully rescuing her. And all those others in that lake of fire, seeing that she was saved, they grabbed hold of her. They latched on, and they too were being lifted up. But she was a very cold-hearted person. She started kicking everyone off of her and screaming at them, "It's my onion. I'm to be saved, not you." As soon as she said those dreaded words, the onion broke, and they all fell back into the lake of fire. And her guardian angel wept, because the God that angel serves is filled with salvific desires for all of us to be saved together. Had this woman not succumbed to the temptation that destroyed her, had she acted otherwise, there would have been salvation, life, and endless love, not only for her, but for all those clinging to her. Friends, we have moral attachments to each other of God's design. No one reaches God alone. We carry each other closer to the day the kingdom dawns for us all. there are ties visible and invisible that unite us to all 7 billion brothers and sisters of ours who this morning call tiny planet Earth their home. And brother Jesus, he was the first to see and embrace all the ties that bind. I witnessed a stunning act of generosity while working at that very orphanage at Namugongo. See, living there for some months, I tried to acquire the lifestyle of the kids, and they eat so simply. They're all so thin, and they rarely, if ever, get candy. They're always begging me, "Father, give me sweeties," and certainly never chocolate. That's for export. That's for people faraway places. Well, after 3 months of this, I needed a Snickers bar. I had to have it. I caved in. So I go to the Capitol, buy one, bring it home. I eat half of it, savoring it, delicious. It was a Saturday. The next day, I was going to have the second half. It's Sunday. But we're having a big athletic competition that day. And I decided to offer up that half a Snickers bar as the grand prize. All the kids exceedingly anxious that they could really win a chocolate bar. Well, 2 kids come in first place. So we cut the half a Snickers bar into a quarter of a Snickers bar. And then I watched as one of them extends his chocolate out this way, and 15 of his best friends line up to share in the prize, each coming forward, each getting a speck of chocolate. The sight was so riveting, I had to avert my eyes. I stayed up half the night memorizing what I saw, thinking some people only know one way to give, with both hands, without a second thought. In the end, there was nothing left for that winner to enjoy but the joy of sharing with his friends. I made a promise to God that night that before I die, I'm going to become more like that kid. I'd love to live that way, because I think that young Ugandan boy, just like Jesus, his stunning yet simple act of generosity inverted the order many people live by, because he placed the others first, ahead of himself. Such self-surrender requires a whole world vision in which we trust in providence to care for our own needs so we can attend first to the needs of others. There is great freedom in living for others. In that simplest action of a destitute child, I saw an amazingly powerful force reveal itself. It's a power and humility that the Gospels tell us belonged preeminently to Jesus. Though hungry himself, Jesus feeds the throngs, the thousands. Though weary himself, Jesus refreshes those who are laboring and burdened. From his gracious spirit, others take strength and life, and he himself is not diminished. Last week, Pope Francis, visiting South America, gathered with a throng of extremely poor and vulnerable persons. Listen to his voice. I want to be a witness to gospel joy and to bring to you the tenderness and the caress of God our Father, especially to your children most in need, and to the elderly, the sick, the imprisoned, the poor, and those who are victims of our throwaway culture. A decade ago, I founded a project called the St Kizito Foundation that today empowers 300 young people who've been tossed aside, not by their parents. Their mothers and fathers have died, just tossed aside because there's no one there to call them their own. They need a strong hand of friendship so they can have schooling and food and shelter and medicine and the touch of love. These are kids who would take the hand of anybody kind enough to offer it. I can promise you today that any sacrificial gift through today's second collection to be given to these children, 100% of offerings will be in Africa in 30 days, giving life and friendship and the tenderness and the caress of God to humanity's extremely vulnerable children. It's no hardship to beg for them because they themselves are generous and they are hardworking and resilient. The girls I work with, they go to the village dumpsters and they collect paper, discarded paper. And from that paper, they weave the paper into very tight beads, and then they dye them bright colors. This is a necklace made from paper in a trash bin, from trash to treasure. It takes forever to make a bead. They weave it so tightly, extremely labor intensive. And I watch them. I get bored after 30 minutes though, but they will sing and pray and spend the day doing this to help provide education and a chance for a more promising future. We have some of these on display. You can pick one up and take it home. We also have rosaries that they made from these beads. But I ask you, when you touch one of these, whisper a prayer for the young person who made it for you. Feel connected to their experience. After all, the world is a small place, and we're all coming together in realms of grace and favor. God lets us see one another, and we have fresh energy to be for each other, just like Jesus, who was always pro nobis for us. May the bread that we break, the cup that we share, the fellowship which is ours in this blessed hour truly join us as one.